Hi, I'm Dr. Elva Edwards, and I'm the creator of the website healingchildhoodloss.com. And that is for those of us who lost a parent when we were a child. And today I'm talking about imprints. I'm in a series of talking about my imprint so that maybe you can think of, well, how was I imprinted in that particular way in my family circumstance, whoever raised you. I was reared by my grandparents, and today I wanted to talk about finances because, it's kind of hard for me to talk about because I've had such a difficult time. And one of the reasons is because, when you're reared by your grandparents, life is not in sync like it is with other people. Let's take, for instance, if you are reared by your parents, they're usually in their 20s or 30s when you're born, and they're working, and you see them go to work every day, and that continues until retirement. But for me, because I landed in the arms of my grandparents when I was 19 months, when my parents were both killed, he was close to retirement. And he actually retired from farming when I was in the 4th grade. And after that, he was my chauffeur, right? And he, kind of played, actually. He liked to play croquet, and he liked to go to the ball games, the football games, basketball games from this little town that I was in. And he just enjoyed things. Whereas my grandma, on the other hand, she didn't get to retire in the same way because she still had children at home and prepared meals and so forth. And to remember that my grandfather was born in 1893, which means that's a whole, long time ago, right? And what he expected is for me to graduate and marry a man who would provide for me and that I would never work. Because look, when he was about 20, that's what he did. That's what that generation did. And my grandpa wasn't nearly as good as my grandma of recognizing that things change and being willing to change. So my grandpa, when I was about that age, 13, 14, I wanted to work at the fountain at the drugstore, right? Because that was exciting. Remember, they made milkshakes, got Cokes, that kind of thing. But my grandpa said no. And it's different today than it was back then. Back then, if grandpa said no, that meant no. And so wanted to work at the grocery store. That would be fun. Maybe putting things up and maybe checking or whatever. But my grandpa said no. He didn't want us to work, which is very different from most people today. Yes, a lot of people want their children to have a childhood, but they also arrange some way for them to learn about money and making money and earning money and the satisfaction and joy that can give. And it teaches them that that's the way they get out of the house, right? Earn their own money and grow up. And so when I was in college, my roommate said, well, she's got a job at a place where she could, do hemming and alterations for wedding dresses. And I thought, oh my God, those people would get mad at me if I made a mistake. I can't do that. And then, I remember other people having jobs that I was frightened of. Like, for instance, my uncle and aunt, along with my grandparents, took me to Baylor when I first started college, and we spent the night and we went out for breakfast, and this woman comes in, waitress, holding a whole platter of ice water, and it all spilled right into my uncle's lap. And I thought at the time, I can never do that. I can never do that, because I was so afraid of making a mistake. And so I could never waitress, I could never sew, I could never do things that would make other people unhappy. So my first job was when I was out of college. And my first job was being a school teacher. And the whole money thing has never really, I still have to say I have a bit of a problem with it, of feeling like I earn this and I can budget this and I can do this and do that. My life has never really worked that way. And so, that I feel like has a lot to do with being, reared by my grandparents. They didn't do money that way either. In fact, we didn't really talk about money much. And whereas, I have someone in my life who told me that, his little girl who was about first grade, second grade, was going to buy a pig and show it at the stock show and then sell it. And so he was telling her that she had to earn half the money and he would pay half the money to buy this pig. And then he would take her to the bank and let her borrow the money for all the feed, but she had to figure out how much food the pig would need. And I'm fascinated by this. I'm thinking, oh wow, that's so fabulous for a child to learn this. And then he said when they would sell the pig, he would take her back in the bank and let her pay off the loan. And I thought, that is so fabulous. How wonderful. She's getting to learn how things work. Whereas for me, when I was a child, like I said, things were very different. But we had a grocery store in town when I was small that I would just go in and get something and walk by and say, charge it. And they did. And my grandpa would go in and pay for it at the end of the month. And to tell you the truth, I never really even realized that he had to pay for it. And, this is just growing up in a small town and growing up with grandparents. I don't know, everybody's story around money and finances is very different. Some people have told me, I knew from the time I was like 7 or 8 years old, if I wanted clothes for school or something like that, I would have to earn them. And I was very sheltered and very, immature in that way. And so, what I learned when I was teaching school was like, wow, these kids have a lot of independence. Why? Because they have jobs and they bought their car and they pay their own insurance. That was never even a thought for me. And to tell you the truth, it wasn't a thought for too many people that are my age when we were in high school. So nothing was ever explained about money, about how to plan, about anything financial. And so I've had to, crawl and screech my way through. I've been fortunate, yes. And, I'm very glad that I love what I do. But, there would have been a lot of really great lessons that I could have learned about money and how to use it, how to plan for it, and so forth. When my grandpa when I was in the 4th grade and my grandpa quit working and he just sort of, played, I said, well, what happened from that is I had that imprint. Granny was home working, taking care of kids, ironing, washing clothes, and, also making meals and so forth. Where Grandpa, it appeared to me like he just did what he wanted to do. And so when I got married, I married someone who played and I worked. That is a big imprint. When I look, I don't know of any other of the girlfriends I had in high school that did that. It is what it is. But now I see that imprint, sort of was a difficulty, presented itself as a difficulty for me as a grown woman who was trying to figure out life. And I'm wondering what imprints you might have had about money. And I would love it if you would go ahead and leave a comment about your imprint. Maybe it was that I had to earn every penny I spent. That some people, I know they had to bring money home so that the family had food, enough food. Some people were probably like me and just given money, but hopefully given a little bit more direction. I can't say I did without, see. No, I would just have to ask Grandpa for money. And that's how I got it. And that's what I thought, that was my vision of how life would be. And I'm wondering how that is for you. I've worked with people, many, many people, about money and circumstances, family, how that plays out with the emotional work that I do. And so if you do have some issues around money, fears, or, hopefully you too can get some emotional work around that. But leave us a message and let me know. How have you done with money in your life? How have you, did you get the whole concept of earning money and then being able to spend it? Planning, knowing how to use your money to help you. And I will see you next week.